Vanished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the Intergalactic Space Arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything. Welcome to Classic Game Room. Prepare to enter a dream world of magic as we enjoy Dungeons & Dragons Shadow over MYSTARA. I think. It's kind of like the 90s X-Men game, except with more burning people with monsters and cutting them in half-itude. Or burning people with monsters and chomping them in half. That also works. This was originally a 1996 arcade game from Capcom being played here on the computer. It's a 4-player side-scrolling beat-em-up. We've played this game before because you can reskin it with anything. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the X-Men, The Simpsons. Those are all from Konami, but more or less the same. Ooh! That's my reaction video sound. Ooh! Should get 1 billion hits on this now. Anyway, as you can see, this is a fun, colorful arcade beat-em-up with a Dungeons & Dragons theme. Let me tell you about my history with Dungeons & Dragons, with D&D, when I was a kid. In, like middle school somewhere, like 7th grade. I really wanted to play Dungeons & Dragons because it looked really cool, right? Except, nobody would play with me. And I'm an only child, so like, I had nobody to play with. So my mom got me a 1-player Dungeons & Dragons kit, which was terrible. So I just ended up drawing all the pictures out of it. I love the artwork. So from that standpoint, I enjoyed it. But I never actually got to play Dungeons & Dragons with anyone because I would approach my friends like, hey guys, you want to play Dungeons & Dragons? And they'd be like, no. Clearly that's where the line of nerditude was drawn between us, because Star Wars and Nintendo games were acceptable, but Dungeons & Dragons was right out. No way. And the guys that did play D&D were like too nerdy to play with me. So basically I was stuck in nerd purgatory in 7th grade. Not cool enough to be the cool kid, but too cool to be a complete nerd. It's a rough place to be. Thankfully there was Contra. So what I'm saying here is I don't know any of the characters in this game. In fact, my only real experience with D&D is the amazing cartoon show they had way back in the 80s. Which I think had very little to do with any of this, but it was a fun show. This is obviously the kind of game that's best enjoyed with a bunch of friends. You can play with up to 4 players. I'm playing it here on Steam, so get a bunch of friends together and hack and slash your way through whatever Dungeons & Dragons inspired land this is, that I know nothing about. I keep wanting to call it Shadow of Mordor, which has, nothing to do with this game, except I think Lord of the Rings probably had quite a bit of influence over Dungeons & Dragons. Basically, when you go into this one, I will suggest that you play the characters that have magic, because you need magic to do anything in D&D. Just hacking and slashing things with swords will get you killed quickly. Choose one of the, magical characters. And play with some of your buddies. My friend Phil in Austria suggested this one. And after quite a few technical complications on my end, of course, because any computer post-1981 is confusing to me. If it doesn't connect to a mainframe, what good is it? Although I guess these days pretty much everything... Never mind, that was a useless comment. If the mainframe doesn't have spinning tapes, what good is it? You see, magic is the way to go in this one, because, at least in my viewpoint, you don't play this kind of arcade game for points, you play it for fun with friends. It's all about just getting through the game, rather than doing well at the game, at least in my opinion. If I want to play for points, I'll go play Centipede or Missile Command or something. These games are wonderful quarter munchers, and just a good time, and I like this one. I can see why it's quite popular. I like the music here. As you can see, there's some D&D elements. You can choose a path through the game. Your characters level up, and of course there's a bunch of different character classes to choose from. So I think it's safe to say that if you enjoy games like Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, Double Dragon, X-Men, any of those other games I mentioned, you're going to enjoy this one. Although I did find the magic system to be a bit complicated. In the heat of battle, you hold down one of the buttons on, I was playing with my Xbox 360 controller, brings up a little magic wheel and you select your magic, but by the time I did that, usually something was eating me. And I like to play these games with swords instead of magic, because, you know, I'm a tough guy, at least in my mind. And I found any of the actual fighting characters to be pretty much useless. Ooh! The elf wasn't bad. She strikes a nice balance between sword attacks and magic. Also, she rocks the cape well. And I imagine so does my friend Phil in Austria. Let's get you up there on the map. Thank you for sending Dungeons and Dragons to the show. This one is predictable good fun if you enjoy this kind of game, or Dungeons and Dragons. Not just dungeons, but Dungeons and Dragons. Check it out. D&D Shadow over MYSTARA. If you're gonna buy the game anyway, buy it through ClassicGameRoom.com. Welcome to the Lord Carnage Club, being shouted from a turbo volcano! Let's thank these Patreon backers, starting with Jeff Breyer. Derek Langley. Michael and Ariana Nelson. Michael Fernandez. Steven Chucknick. Al Stever. Rick DeBarros. Jason Goy. Sergio Matthias Hergert. Chip Sankbale. Busy Signal. Sean Zoltek. Philip Straubenmuller. Jack Stavris. Ohad Kane. Ian Shore. You sure are awesome. And Tiago Pereira dos Santos Silva. Tiago Pereira dos Santos Silva.